Barbara, Jack, welcome to RDS and to the show Au 19e. Jack, you always said throughout the years that it was very important for professional athletes and golfers to be involved socially. I'd like you to talk about what led you to the creation of the Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation, exactly.
Well, it's a long story, but it started with our daughter, Michelle. She was about 11 months old, and she was choking, and we didn't know what it was. It turned out we had to take her to the hospital. Hospital found a crayon in her windpipe and dropped it in her lungs. She went into pneumonia. We felt like the hospital saved her. We were 26 years old at the time, and Barbara and I looked at each other and I said, if we ever in a position, and we certainly weren't then, to ever help others, we wanted to be children. So as a memorial tournament started, that hospital, it was the Columbus Children's Hospital, now the Nationwide Children's Hospital, been the beneficiary ever since. Fast forward to about 16 years ago, and the Honda tournament moved to the Palm Beach area, and the fellow named Fred Millsaps, who ran their charities, came to us and said, Jack and Barbara, is there anything in this area that can benefit children? And I looked at Barbara and I said, do you want to go for it? We did. So we started our foundation then.
Barbara, am I wrong by saying that you're some kind of the heart and soul of that foundation? Let's talk about your personal involvement. How do you work with all these people? And like Jack was saying, not only in the United States, but all over the place.
Well, as you know, there's no borders with children. And I think you just mentioned the word children to anyone and they can't say no. And I know they say a baby is God's reason for the world to go on. So that kind of tells you that we feel so blessed to be giving back and to help these children who will soon be our world leaders.
Barbara and Jack, you were always talking about family. It's a very important aspect of your life. You got 5 children, 22, am I mistaken, grandchildren?
Right.
The importance of the family for a professional athlete. I'd like to have a few comments, your comments on that, both Barbara and Jack.
I think that's one thing that I'm so proud of Jack acknowledging this when he first turned pro. He looked at me and he said, I promise you I will not be gone longer than 2 weeks at a time. I do not want my children to grow up and say, gee, I wish I'd known my dad. And believe me, they grew up as his best friend. And it's funny now that our kids have children. Jack used to fly across the country for a baseball game, for a football game. And I think our children just thought that's what dads do. Well, now that they've had children, they say, oh my gosh, Dad flew from Mexico to West Palm for a baseball game. So I think they're in awe now of what their dad did, but they just expected it when he did that. So I'm very proud of him that he did that. And he was the one who cried with every child going off to college.
And tell me, Jack, you're still one of the fans' favorite, especially at the Masters, who remember you when your grandson scored a hole-in-one.
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago. GT, Gary's son, and he, all the kids. I've had all the kids now. I've completed all 22 kids have caddied for me in the par 3 or been represented at the Masters. And the night or the weekend before, we were having brunch after Easter before we went. And I always ask them if they want to hit a ball. And so I asked GT. I said, GT, would you like to hit a ball? And he said, sure. He says, none of my cousins have ever hit it on the green. I said, well, I think maybe somebody can hit it on the green here. And so we got around I said, well, while you're going to hit it on the green, you may as well knock it in the hole. And so he talked to his dad on Tuesday night and said, he says, Peepaw, that's me. He says, Peepaw thinks I'm going to make a hole-in-one. Gary said, well, that would be very nice, but I wouldn't hold my breath. So anyway, we got to Thursday. GT had a jumpsuit on, and he had borrowed one of my clubs and a ball, and we got around to the 9th hole, and it was about 125 yards, I suppose. And he took my pitching wedge and knocked it on the green, and it came right down and went in the hole. And that was pretty exciting. That was probably, I won 6 Masters. They were very special. But having your grandson do something at Augusta, at a special place like that, that was number one for me.
Jack, you're talking about your performances. There is, I'd say, a special link between Jack Nicklaus and Canada, even though you never won the Canadian Open. Is there a way to explain that?
I kept sending him back.
7 times second.
Yeah, but your legacy to Canadian golf, can we say that the most important part is indeed the course you designed at Glen Abbey?
Probably so. It was the first solo design that I did. And you've played, I don't know how many Canadian Opens there, 20 some, I suppose. And I've been very proud of it. I think it's been a good golf course. It served its purpose very well. I hope it continues to stay there. We don't know what's going to happen, but I would love to see it stay there. But, time moves on, and that's okay. But to have that relationship with Canada and have the national championship played on your golf for so many times has been a very big honor for me.
Last time we saw you in Montreal was in a hockey dressing room. You know that our Montreal Canadiens are now in the playoffs. Any words for our team?
Well, play well. As I told you then, I'm not a hockey buff. I don't follow it that much, but I always like to see good teams play well, and you and teams that are well supported. You support the Canadians very well, and you guys have always had a great team. So we wish you continued success.
Barbara, Jack, merci infiniment. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Michel. It's nice talking to you, and look forward to seeing you in Canada in not too distant future.